You're listening to Brave Girls with Tracy M., where we choose to empower you to be a better leader, mentor, and coach in the world. We'll share stories of people who have achieved great heights by overcoming adversity and rising to the challenge, all while pursuing their passions. These courageous people will inspire you to have faith in yourself and take bold action. Right here with the host of Brave Girls, Tracy M.
Episode 29, Show True Grit with Carol Strickland. Meet my high school lacrosse teammate, Carol Strickland, who's launched a side hustle that honors her dad's legacy, connects her to her interest in fishing, and capitalizes on her fascination with mermaids. Carol shares how she researched the spirits marketplace and landed on her concept of a premium, handcrafted, gluten-free Mermaid Vodka. Leveraging her corporate sales experience with BMW and the courses she took as part of her MBA, she was able to quickly go to market with her niche business. She shares how all her experiences to date have prepared her for a completely different, competitive, and complex industry as an entrepreneur. Her 2-year journey is netting results today, and the future is bright for her company. She talks about all the decisions that she had to make as she was creating her company and how she evaluated each aspect of her firm to include the team that she's put together to make the business a go. You'll learn why she decided to sell a gluten-free product and how she did 3-way blind taste testing to ensure her product was competitive against well-known brands such as Tito's, Ketel One, Goose, and Belvedere. She shares how challenging the industry is and how events have really been critical to her being able to launch her product in Florida. We discussed her marketing outreach to the fishing community and how she went about finding a distributor to get the registered brand into the retail space. Carol also shares her personal Brave Girl story as a breast cancer thriver and how she used her true grit to put her on the other side of her cancer diagnosis. We talk about how important it is to take care of your health and get the required screenings. Learning there are no guarantees in life, Carol's perspective shifted and allowed her to have the courage to take the leap and believe in herself with launching Mermaid Vodka. We also talk about the popular trend in mermaids and how that has given her additional sales opportunities for Mermaid Vodka to include merchandise with her logo on it. I know that you'll love listening to my conversation with one of my favorite mermaids and Brave Girls, Carol Strickland. So let's go.
So welcome to Brave Girls with Tracy M. Today, I have my friend Carol Strickland from Mermaid Vodka USA, which is produced down in Sarasota, Florida, with us for this episode. So welcome to the show, Carol.
Hi, Tracy. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So we go way back. I think the last time I saw you, we were playing lacrosse in high school, which is a long time ago. But catch me up on what you've been up to. You're down in Florida. You've got this company that you've launched, but I know that it's a little bit of a side hustle, and you've been working for BMW for a really long time. So give us a little, catch me up here.
Okay. Well, I've spent 31 years. I can't even believe those words are leaving my mouth. 31 years in corporate America, first with General Motors and then BMW. And, I've always had that entrepreneurial, I want to work. Oops, sorry about that. I want to work for somebody else. I'm tired of working for someone else. I'm tired of making money for other people. I want something that's just mine, my own business. And my dad was an entrepreneur, business owner. So I kind of grew up in a family business and it inspired me. And 2 years ago, my dad passed away and, I wanted to find a way to carry on his legacy. And my brother is doing that. He still has the family business and he's running it and very much doing a great job, successful. So I thought, well, what can I do to carry on my dad's legacy? All the things that he instilled in me, kind of being tenacious and a go-getter and trying to innovate and do something that would honor his legacy, but also that would interest me. And I've heard people say a million times, find something that you're passionate about and you'll be successful. So there you go. Well, am I passionate about vodka? That's the first people ask me, why vodka? So I started thinking about different businesses. And, I was actually sitting there having a cocktail with some of my friends, and we started talking about different things that we all like to do. And I've always been an angler. My dad took us fishing, growing up in Maryland, Tracy, that, the Chesapeake Bay, the Ocean City area, the Atlantic Ocean, it's some of the finest fishing in the world, which is why they have, of course, the largest billfish tournament in the world, the Lake Marlin Open. So going fishing a lot with my dad, I've always been a fisherman. I've always enjoyed it. It's kind of my relaxation. It's where I go to, reflect, enjoy fishing. And then, of course, if you're lucky, you bring home some good fish to eat as well. So the whole fishing, crabbing, growing up around the water was something that's just never left me. Even when I moved to Florida, I was like, thank goodness I'm by the water. I've only lived inland once in my life. And that was when I was in Michigan, and it was terrible. Not being near the water just was not for me. So I started looking at, fishing and, fishing guide. Well, that's really a challenging business. It's like waking up and saying, I'm going to start a podcast, right? You can't just do it. You really have to establish yourself, know the waterways, promote yourself. And it just seemed like a little too time consuming and involved. Plus you have to have a lot of equipment, big fancy boat, the whole 9 yards, all the tackle. So I scratched that off the list. And then I started looking at the walls in my room in my house called the Mermaid Lounge, because I've had a lifelong fascination for mermaids. And I thought, well, how can I combine mermaids and fishing into a business? So, I kind of started looking at the different artwork I have and the sculptures and stuff like that. And I was like, one of these mermaids would look super cute sitting on a fish hook. So once I started kind of getting my design in mind, it really just evolved into, well, let's put it on a bottle. Let's see what it looks like on a label on a bottle. So I really came up with the concept of the marketing, the labeling, the packaging first. And then I naturally looked into where the spirits industry is. Again, I kind of had that liquid inspiration, if you will, Tracy. So once I decided that, I would research spirits and see what segment is growing, what has some opportunity. So then, that's kind of the boring part for most people. You start looking at all the stats, what's growing, what's not growing, what's saturated, where is there a niche that you can fit yourself into. So researching spirits really kind of brought me into the vodka end of it, because it's the fastest growing segment in the spirits industry. And craft vodka or handmade vodka is also one of the fastest growing segments. The bigger brands, the mass produced brands, if you will, are not growing at the same rate as the craft. Craft brands are 42% growth year over year and still growing. So I thought, well, there's room for one more.
Yeah, and I would imagine your experience at BMW helped you with the whole looking for that opportunity and looking at the data of like what's growing, what's going on there. Like that had to be really helpful as a skill set, really.
Oh, definitely. All the analytics that I've done in corporate America, and getting my MBA. You never think you're going to use what you've learned in school. It's like, what's the real application? But I'll tell you, I was so happy that I kept some of the textbooks, because I pulled out, looking at some of the different statistics and the different business cases that we used in at University of Phoenix, where I got my MBA, is all business case study. So I looked at some of those business cases and tried to kind of figure out, okay, where does my business plan fit into some of these real life examples of successful companies and successful businesses. So definitely everything that I think I've done up to this point's kind of prepared me for Mermaid Vodka, which launched in February.
Wow. I was really impressed when I went to your website, mermaidvodkausa.com, if anybody's interested. And I looked at, not only do you have the premium gluten gluten-free vodka that's made in the U.S., that's distilled 6 times, charcoal filtered, and we can talk all about that. But you also kind of saw that you could have some other products like hats and gear and, to put your logo on, because that's like another revenue stream for you.
It definitely is. The merchandise has been huge. We put it on the website, as you mentioned, and we also take it to events. So when we go to events where we're doing tastings, or some events we're able to sell a product, like in liquor stores, we take the merchandise with us because people want it. They like the look of our logo. We're very fortunate that we've had a good design, and we get a lot of people who just want to wear it and promote it, which is nothing better than having free advertising walking around in your gear. So yeah, we're actually looking at a couple other items. We're getting ready to launch with service tumblers, which is very big. Very big, and we're signing a licensing agreement with them, and we hope in about a month, right before Christmas, we'll have service tumblers out and ready to go for the public.
That's great. That's great. So talk a little bit about the production of the actual product. Like, do you have somebody that, like, how did you come to, okay, it's going to get distilled 6 times, charcoal filtered, and all of that?
Well, I used to joke with people and say, I distill it right in my bathtub,
Right.
Or right there in the bathtub. But what I did was I started researching, first of all, did I want to have my own distillery? Second of all, what's the other option? Because it's very, very capital intensive to have a distillery. And not only from an equipment perspective, but you have to have a good distiller. You have to have someone that knows what they're doing. Chemistry was not my forte. I don't know if you remember that little incident in the chemistry lab at John Carroll, but anyway, so I knew very quickly that a contract distiller was going to be the way to go, especially to bring the product to market quickly, to capitalize on the craft trend, but also on the mermaid trend. Mermaids are huge. They just keep all the Google pages keep growing in leaps and bounds. So I found a craft distiller in Riviera Beach, Florida, which is just around Palm Beach. And we went through the process together. He's got it's called Citrus Distillers. And they have a really good kind of a turnkey plan where they walk you through the whole process from developing the product to bottling it, labeling it, corking it, and getting it out on the shelves in stores. So we went back and forth. I knew the base of the product. I knew I wanted it to be corn-based. And I knew that simply because that was my preference, but also because gluten-free is a major product differentiator when it comes to spirits. So many people have gluten intolerance, celiac disease, you name it. And it's important when they're shopping that they see that gluten-free on the label. So I started with kind of a few basic product characteristics. And then, it was taste. It was really just a matter of taste. We went back and forth on the samples. The distiller would produce a sample. I would taste it. I knew it didn't have the smoothness that I wanted, or, a certain quality. So we would go, kind of back and forth on it. Once we arrived at what I thought was the best formula, then I went out and did blind taste testing. So we blind taste tested against our competitors. We are premium vodka. We're 6 times distilled. The point of being 6 times distilled is it lends itself to the smoothness. It takes that bite out of the product. We're charcoal filtered, as you mentioned. Again, that all lends itself to filtering out the impurities out of the product and making it super smooth. So we're in the premium segment. It costs more to produce our product. Every time you distill it, it's another level of cost added to the base cost of the product. So we're in the premium segment. We went out and taste tested. I did a 3-way blind taste test. So here we go. Statistics. We have to have a statistically sound sample. So we did a lot of blind taste testing, and we used 4 main competitors, Tito's, Ketel One, or I should say 3 main competitors: Tito's, Ketel One, and Belvedere. Those seem to be the most main, and excuse me, Grey Goose as well. I knew I had 4 in there. They seem to be the most mainstream premium brands. If you go around, most people, if you ask them what they drink, they're going to have one of the 4. Belvedere's not as common as the other 3, but it's a premium. It's the top of the line. It's almost an ultra premium brand, especially when you look at the price point. So we did a blind taste test, and that's when I knew we had the right formula.
That's awesome. And then, so as far as your like market launch, did you decide to just stay local in Florida? But I saw on your website you're looking to go into other markets. So it's sort of like prove out your product and figure out who your ideal customer is and your distribution. And then you mentioned you did events. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the getting it into the bottle, I have to say, was the easiest part.
Wow.
It's a very, very challenging industry. It's, you don't just put it out there and all of a sudden people want to buy it. Wow, we love it. Let's buy it. You really have to get behind the brand and put it out there, go to events. We launched in February when we got our first pallet of product. We went straight out. I mean, literally, I was sweating it. Were we going to have the product in time for the event? We started in Boca Raton, Florida, at a huge event called the Concours d'Elegance. Had a great reception to the product. The only problem was people were asking where could they buy it, and at that point, I had not even had it in a store yet, a liquor store, a bar, a restaurant. So I kind of learned that was a great launch, but a little bit ahead of ourselves, because you really have to, if you're going to do an event in an area, you have to have product placement. Otherwise, you're just pouring free vodka. So our strategy was basically, and still is, to launch in Florida, which is what we did in February, and really lock down Florida, and then we'll go to other states. Obviously, with my roots being in Maryland, I definitely want to get up into Maryland. I have people up there asking for it all the time. Some of our former classmates, by the way.
Yeah, I would think with like the White Marlin Open, which like you mentioned is a big thing in Ocean City, Maryland, that would be the perfect platform or venue for people to learn about it. And I mean, that's just a huge, huge fishing event.
It is. And of course, with the Mermaid being on the fish hook, we support the fishing community. That's my passion. I fish tournaments, and that's really where we go for most of our events are fishing tournaments or, the different shows. They have all these big shows that go around the country, the boat shows, Fort Lauderdale boat shows going right now. So, we're all over Florida with the fishing community and our goal really is to get to the white market. We talked this past year, but it was a little too quick for us. And we really weren't ready. And I'm a firm believer, if you can't do it right, don't do it. So rather than rush up there, we did have a distributor ready to bring us in. That's another key component of launching a liquor brand. You have to have a distributor. You can't just put it out there yourself. So most states are what they call 3-tier states. You have a distiller, a distributor, and of course the retailers. And the brand it's the brand's responsibility to lock all 3 down. So it's a lot of work, but it's a fun industry. I'm glad I picked it because everything that I did up to this point has prepared me for it. Been in a challenging industry, the automotive industry, it doesn't get more competitive, really. But I think the liquor industry may have beat it. And the more I get to know about it and the more I'm involved in it, it is a very ultra competitive industry. And I did have quite a few people when I first launched reach out to me and ask me if I, needed a sanity check. How are you going to do this? You're never going to make it. And I just used that as a little bit of, I'm going to prove them wrong. I use that kind of as motivation to show people, I can get in there and compete. And now that we're really starting to get traction in our sales, mostly in the Sarasota area, Bradenton, Fort Lauderdale areas, down in the Keys too. I'm finding that, I'm starting to feel some gratification in the business and not, just kind of feel like I'm plugging away without a lot of reward, which we all need.
Right, right. Well, and I'm sure, you know, before we got on the line, we talked about, you're a breast cancer survivor, 8 years now and in remission. So that had to have changed your mindset in many ways to have been diagnosed and then gotten treatment and then overcome it and really you're a survivor, right? So talk a little bit about that.
I like to call myself a thriver.
Yeah.
Thriver is a great term, and it's used widely, especially as it relates to cancer. But I feel like after I was given a second chance, I needed to thrive. I needed some things that were big. And being diagnosed 8 years ago with stage 2B breast cancer, it was a shock, but it wasn't. My mother was in her 7th year of a battle with stage 4 breast cancer that had metastasized in her liver and lungs. So I was very familiar with what I was about to go through. Definitely not to the extent of what my mom endured. She had a very difficult battle, but she showed me how to go through that with, grace and courage and not feel sorry for myself. And I really didn't tell a lot of people. When I got diagnosed, I kind of kept it to myself, kind of like she did, same thing. And I, processed it myself, like, how am I going to handle this? What's my way to go down this journey? And it is a journey when you're battling cancer. You go through a range of emotions. I went through the why me. I'm healthy. I work out. I eat right. I drink a little, but not too much. Why me? And cancer there's no rhyme or reason. If they had that figured out, we'd have a cure for it by now. Although I do think Barb Stouch is pretty close. I don't know if you've been following.
Yes, one of our classmates. Yes, I think I said that to someone. I said, I think I know the person that's going to find the cure to cancer. And they were like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I went to high school with her. And I think she's brilliant and she's going to figure it out.
Definitely will. She's tenacious. So, I went through it. I was very fortunate that it was caught early. If I can put a message out there to anybody, get all the screening you can get. If your doctor wants to order early mammograms or ultrasounds or MRIs, just go through it. Don't fight it, because unfortunately my mom didn't. She did not, was not as diligent about the screening. And if they had caught her cancer earlier, she would have definitely survived it. So, I'm an avid supporter of screening and early detection. And also I support the cause. As soon as my mom had gotten diagnosed, I signed up and did the 3-day breast cancer walk, where you have to raise $2,500 just to do the walk, and started really becoming an advocate for fundraising for the cause. And then once I was diagnosed, I just continued it and tried to use it as a way to teach myself a few things and learn about myself, and learn who I really am. What do I have? Do I have that true grit? How am I gonna fight this battle and not succumb to it? Because you don't feel so hot when you're going through it. And I had surgery, I had chemo, I had radiation. So I had a pretty lengthy treatment, but Tracy, I'm very fortunate and blessed to come out, 100% in remission. They check me still. The new protocol is they follow you for 10 years. Used to they would follow you for 5 years. And right before I hit my 5-year milestone, my oncologist said, well, got good news for you. We're going to keep seeing you for 5 more years. And I said, fine. I followed the directions. Whatever they want me to do, I'm going to do it, because I don't want to go through it again.
Right. Wow. So that's amazing. I kind of want to go back to the vodka. Do you actually patent the formula, or how does that work?
Well, there's only so many ways you can distill
Okay.
Spirits. So the the formula itself isn't patented, but it's registered.
Oh, okay.
Distillers they have to provide you with a formula that is at least 5% different from the other formulas that they distill. So they register your formula, and then all of my labeling is trademarked. So label design is trademarked. The tagline, "Get hooked on Mermaid Vodka," is trademarked, and the words "Mermaid Vodka" are trademarked. That was probably one of the most challenging aspects on the legal side of it, because you have to get all that done. Otherwise, you get out there and you find out there's there's somebody else with the same name, and that would have been a disaster. So we did all of our diligence and went down the proper legal channels.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Now, do you have a team, or is it you pulling people in, like you pull in an attorney, or you pulling in an accountant, or as you pull in a graphic designer? Is that how you're basically been running and launching?
Definitely. It's kind of on a as needed basis. You start out on your own, the lone wolf, lone ranger, lone mermaid. And, as it started to grow, it was a 2-year process before I actually came to the point of having product in a bottle. So, I started out on my own, but then you realize that you have to have those people. They cost money, but they're worth every penny. And a good lawyer, I can't tell you how valuable it is to have a good legal representation, and someone to make sure you're not doing something that you shouldn't be doing, or something that's going to have a bad result. So that, an accountant, have a really great, fantastic marketing person. Another person whose expertise is strictly events. The events are very tricky. It's a lot of moving pieces, and if you don't have somebody else to really control all of that and make sure that you don't drop the ball, you're going to show up at the event with something missing, and it's going to be a disaster. You will have wasted time and money. So you got to have experts. You have to keep with that. I don't proclaim to know it all, nor do I want to know it all.
Right.
I want to be able to get out and do the marketing and the sales. We have a really good sales team, some fantastic, talented sales reps, and they get a lot of no's. It's a lot of rejection in liquor sales, and not just for our brand. It's across the industry. So you have to have a thick skin. So you need a good sales team as well. So we're building as the brand grows. We continue to add different people, or maybe expand one of the areas. But right now we're still small but lean.
Yeah. So I'm not familiar with like can people buy your product online? Like, what are the liquor laws across state lines? Like, how does that all work? Is that another distribution mechanism, or does it have to be actually in a retail store?
Well, the liquor laws by state vary. So again, another level of complexity added to the business, which is why we've stayed in Florida right now. But the great thing is there is, within the law, you are allowed to sell liquor online. So on our website, mermaidvodkausa.com, we have a clever little button that's a play on our tagline. You click on the "Get Hooked, Buy Now" button, and it takes them into an online portal through, actually, you don't see it, but the back end is a liquor store in Florida that ships it out. They have to fulfill it. All the product sales have to be fulfilled through a retailer, a licensed beverage retailer. So in our case, it's a liquor store. And once someone places an online order, the liquor store takes the order, processes it, and ships the product. So it's enabled us to ship product out to other states for, we get inquiries from a lot of people. The mermaid industry itself is huge, and we get a lot of mermaid clubs, professional mermaids, mermaid aquatic, mermaid aerobics classes, different people that want to have the product, people for weddings. We have a gentleman out on the West Coast who buys our miniatures. We have the 50 milliliter minis. Most people are familiar with those on airplanes. But he buys them by the case and uses them at events, weddings, bridal showers, things like that. So it's got a lot of different avenues, but the online portals definitely helped us get into other areas, because the next state we launch in, we have to find a distributor. You have to get your brand licensed in that state. So you're almost going through a mini startup with every state that you enter.
Right, right. Yeah, I know there's a Mermaid Parade, I think on Coney Island. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but there's a group of ladies that I'm friends with in Baltimore, and they're the Charm City Mermaids, and they participate in this Mermaid Parade every year. So you need to get your Mermaid Vodka out to the parade, because there's literally all these mermaid clubs from across the U.S. that compete in this parade. So yes, I think the mermaid industry, for whatever reason, it's really very appealing to so many people.
It definitely is. You know, when I first started researching the branding, I just plugged in the word mermaid into Google, which is obviously the biggest search engine there is. And it's tens of thousands. I don't even think I found all the pages. I mean, just tens of thousands of pages of terms that come up on the word mermaid. And, you know, I like to say, you know, everybody wants to be a mermaid deep down inside. You know, they're beautiful mythological creatures, and you know, there's the mystery aspect to it, and it's fun. You know, I was a mermaid 2 years ago for Halloween. I pulled the costume out again this year, wore it again, because now I have, you know, a real reason to wear it. And it's a fun brand. And you know, again, you're by the water. It's about the water. We do quite a few photo shoots with mermaids as well, but I'm going to look your friends up, because I think that would be a great tie-in for us.
Definitely, definitely. So my finale question is always, what's the bravest thing that you've ever done, and how does it inspire you today?
Ah, you ask tough questions, Tracy. I would definitely have to say that the bravest thing I've ever done is going through breast cancer. You know, it really you learn a lot about yourself in that process, and you learn what you're capable of. And I really think it prepared me for this business. I don't think I would have wanted to take the risk of a business if I hadn't gone through that, and kind of proved to myself that not only could I do it, but I the week after I signed up for a triathlon. I'd never done triathlons before. I thought, I'm going to train for something so it keeps me motivated to stay healthy during my treatment, and keeps me focused on something else. So, you know, I went through certain steps as a part of being diagnosed with cancer, that I proved to myself along the way that I had a lot more internal strength and fortitude, that I could do things that I'd never done before. That I was, you know, you have a certain element of fear, and that comes along with starting this business. So, you know, it's a risk. I have, you know, my own personal funds invested. I have investors that I have to account to, and you know, there's no guarantees in life. So I think, yeah, I really think that out of that negative of having had breast cancer, I think it's so much has come out of it that I really, I don't want to say I'm thankful for having gone through it, but you know, it did teach me a lot about what I am capable of, and what I have inside of myself, you know, to rely on. And at the end of the day, if you don't have that, if you don't have a belief in yourself, and a belief in what you're doing and what you're capable of doing, you're not going to be as successful as you could. I hope really that people are inspired by that, because it really is. If you believe in yourself, you really can accomplish great things on any scale, you know, and whether it's helping someone else, whether it's counseling somebody else that's recently diagnosed with breast cancer. You know, if you can be that source of strength to that person and say, you know, here's my story. I went through it. I got through it. You can do it. Or proving to someone else, hey, you know what? You're thinking about starting a business. Go for it. You know, if it's your dream, follow it. And, you know, that's I think been my greatest challenge. And right now for me, my greatest reward.
That's great. Well, I think that, everything, there are no coincidences. And I think Mermaid Vodka, I think the time is right for that product to come out into the market. I think that you've done all the background research to really think things through. You've connected with all the right people. I think I agree with you. I think you do have to believe in yourself, and we all probably have more in us than we really give ourselves credit for. And if you do have a dream, like I had a dream to have this podcast, I don't know where it's going to lead me, but I agree. I think that, you got to dig deep and have that true grit, like you said. And so I wish you the best of luck. And I thank you so much for being on the show. Hopefully more people around the world are now going to know about Mermaid Vodka USA. They'll buy your products, they'll look for your events. And I'm so glad we've reconnected after so many years. And I love following your Instagram and your Facebook and all the things that you're putting out on social media for your company as you kind of transition out of the automotive industry eventually into this full time. So, and I look forward to it coming to the Maryland marketplace.
Thanks so much, Tracy. I've really enjoyed our time today, and I appreciate your bringing us on and giving us the exposure on your podcast.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Brave Girls with Tracy M. as much as I did creating it. Each show is produced with you, the listener, in mind, as you look for inspiration and motivation from other brave souls as you pursue your desires. I'd love to hear your feedback, so please leave me a review on iTunes. I read every one. And check out my website, tracym.com, for more free resources. You can also join my list and sign up for my newsletter right from the homepage. Until next time, stay strong, believe in your dreams, and go do something brave.
We appreciate you joining us for this episode of Brave Girls with Tracy M. and hope that you enjoyed the show. For more information about today's episode, as well as additional free resources to help you achieve greatness in your life, visit tracym.com and sign up for our mailing list. Until next time, dream big, believe in yourself, and let your brilliance shine as only you can do.